Hi, welcome back to Pixie Dust and Paperbacks. So before we get into today's video, I have a new mic. Can you just let me know if it sounds okay? I don't know if it's too close, not close enough. I don't know if it sounds good. So fingers crossed it goes well. I'll eventually be getting a better quality mic. And I've also now started filming on my DSLR camera. So hopefully the quality is really good. It's just an older version, so I don't have the side camera, so I actually don't know what I look like right now. So I could look like a complete clown. Who knows? So now let's start the video. So today's video is going to be about Wuthering Heights. Now, obviously the movie's just come out. I think it's been a week. A week tomorrow here in Australia. And I ended up seeing it on the 13th. And well, I have a few things to talk about. I originally read Wuthering Heights. I don't know how old I was, but I know I was a lot younger. I got gifted, I think it was by my mom for my birthday or maybe Christmas, a box of like little, they're like maybe this big, probably about like that fat, classics. It had Wuthering Heights, Great Expectations, Sherlock Holmes, David Copperfield, Moby Dick, War of the Worlds, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. There was a couple other ones I don't remember. I think a Sense and Sensibility was one. Great Expectations. I don't know if I said that already. I remember what they look like. They're like orange or peachy in color, and the titles were all in white on the front, I believe, or maybe black, and the images on the front were very kind of like old and timey. Anyways, I had Wuthering Heights in that little set, so I'm assuming I had a young adult or child-friendly version. I don't know if you consider it child-friendly. Like I said, I don't remember how old I was, but I know there were more condensed version. Oh, Frankenstein was also in it. Anyways, sorry, sidetracked. And just before the movie released, I reread Wuthering Heights. I remember liking it a lot when I was younger. I don't know why. I'm not saying I don't like it now. I still like it, and I think it's a great piece of literature, and I think that everyone should read it. I think it's a stepping stone in history, especially coming from a female author. And it was literally the only book I believe that Emily Bronte wrote. If you know about the Bronte sisters, obviously the whole Bronte family, not a happy ending. But yeah. So, I have my phone here with my notes, so I will be looking down from time to time, because I have quite a few notes actually. I don't know if you can see that, but we'll jump into it. So I don't know if I've ever seen any other adaptations of Wuthering Heights. But after my partner reads it, we're planning on watching the one with Kaya Solsodario. She's one of my favorite actresses out of the UK, and I saw that she was in a version. I don't know if it's a TV movie or it was actually a movie. Who knows? So a lot of classics are coming out. So we'll just jump right into this one. So the opening scene. All right. Oh, before I continue, spoilers. So if you haven't read the book and you want to read the book, click off. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to see the movie, click off as well. Because there are going to be some spoilers. I will try to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but there is a lot of plot points from the book that were missing in the movie. And to me, the movie was good for what it was. I didn't mind it. Partner hated it. She's never read the books though, so I don't know if she's gonna even like the book. I don't think she's going to. That's just my take on that one. But for what it was okay. It was decent. Was it Wuthering Heights? Maybe just a little tiny like sprinkle. It to me, it kept like the tension and the I don't want to say toxicity of Heathcliff and Catherine's relationship, but it's slightly toxic. But it keeps that tension. And there is some parts of the movie that were sad, and I thought I was about to cry in the movie theater. I'm glad I did not, because that would have been really embarrassing. But there was a lady next to us, she was bawling her eyes out. So there's that. I feel like if you are expecting the book from the movie, don't go in thinking it's going to be a carbon copy or that it's going to have a lot of the book in it, because it doesn't. The book ends pretty much halfway through the book, or maybe just before halfway through the book. So I'll just leave it like that. Now, last call, spoilers are moving forward. I'll try to keep it minimum, but if you haven't seen the book or watched the movie, then click off now. If you don't care and you want to continue and hear my thoughts or explanations, great, let's go. Now, if you have seen it and you just want to hear my take on it, leave what you think about the movie down below. They're coming out with a lot of classics in movies now. Obviously, Frankenstein. I just watched that tonight, and oh my god, it had me crying. I think Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein was amazing. This version of Wuthering Heights, it was, like I said, it was okay for what it was. Out of 5 stars, I give it a 3, I guess. And then later in the year, Sense and Sensibility is coming out. So that's another classic that I'm going to have to put on my list to make sure I read it beforehand. So without further ado, I've yapped way too much already. Let's get into it. Okay, so the opening scene. So how the book opens, it's opened by the narrator, who at the time is Mr. Lockwood. And he's visiting Thrushcross Grange. And then he eventually goes up to the Heights because Heathcliff is actually his new landlord. Now, Mr. Lockwood isn't in the movie at all. Period. At all. And in the book, Heathcliff ends up owning both properties. That's not done in the movie. He does end up owning the Heights, though, or he inherits or takes it over. I don't know. But there's that. With the movie, so that's kind of like how it opens, the book opens. Now with the movie, well, the movie took major creative liberties. I mean, an insane amount of creativity. It opens to a hanging day, and there's a lot of wild stuff going on. I'm just going to leave it at that. The crowd gets up to some crazy shit, like crazy stuff. Like the stuff happening on this day, I would, like if I saw someone hanging on a gallows, I would not be doing what they're doing. There's also a nun, which like what it hints at, not a fan, but you know, that's me. I just think it's kind of it's a bit shocking. And I guess because it is supposed to be someone that is religious, so that's the way I view it. But yeah, it's crazy, and I think everyone in that opening scene needs Jesus. Um, so that it does not match up at all with the book. That scene is not in the book. The next thing that was different from the movie, in the book, Catherine's brother is not dead. He is alive, and his name is not Heathcliff. It's Hindley. So I was kind of confused when she said, I'm going to name him Heathcliff after my dead brother. I was like, what? That's not how it goes. That's not how it happens. And he is the one that's really cruel and abusive. And he doesn't like Heathcliff, period. He does whatever he can to torment Heathcliff. He doesn't like the relationship that Catherine and Heathcliff have together. And then Catherine's also jealous because Mr. Earnshaw, Catherine's father, takes to Heathcliff really well. And so Hindley and Catherine both have like this weird jealousy thing with him. It's kind of odd, and a lot of people believe because of this situation and because Mr. Earnshaw is so like kind and loving and attached, and he just with Heathcliff, that a lot of people think that he's like the illegitimate son of Earnshaw. If that's true, I don't know. That's not what I got from it. Hindley, he's the one that actually has the gambling issue. So he inherits the Heights from his father after his father's death. And he ends up marrying a woman, and she ends up dying. And after she dies, he like goes into like this spiral of like, well, pretty much like how they portrayed Mr. Earnshaw in the movie. Gambling, alcoholism, you name it, he's doing it. He has all these vices to try to help him get through the loss of his wife. And Hindley, and in the book, there's a lot of death in this book, by the way. So he does end up dying. So that is true, but he dies as an adult, and he actually outlives Catherine. And upon his death, that's when Heathcliff comes in and he takes over the Heights. Now, so in the movie, her brother just doesn't exist. So that's that. Now, in the book, Mr. Earnshaw, Catherine and Hindley's dad, he's very nice, he's very kind, he's very loving, he's a good man. And he brings Heathcliff, he goes away for a business trip or something, and he brings Heathcliff back from Liverpool because he wants to make him a gentleman, and he wants to give him a better life. Like, he wants to give him the life like he gives his children. So the way that the movie portrayed Earnshaw is not how it was. And their living environment wasn't how it was either. When Mr. Earnshaw dies, before Hindley takes over, he actually dies very peacefully, and Catherine's with him, and it's a really lovely scene. I think in the book, a lot of the characters are unlikable, and I think there's a reason for that, because a lot of them have an extreme amount of flaws, and I think it's Bronte's way of like showing you like how people are human, and no matter what they may appear on the outside, internally they may be having struggles, they may be having all these negative things, they have flaws, and that's what makes them human. And there's people that hate the book because of this reason, but that is why I enjoy the book, because it's not all sunshines, lollipops, and rainbows. Like, some of these characters are very problematic. Mr. Earnshaw was not one of them. He was probably the best character. He was probably Mr. Sunshine. That's just how I can describe it. Everyone else was a bit of a roller coaster, but for the most part, a lot of people find them very unlikable. So when Hindley, in the book, when Hindley takes over, he puts Heathcliff to work. So the movie showed this, but the movie showed it was Mr. Earnshaw doing this, and he stops Heathcliff's education and learning and playing and all that with Catherine. And they do have this weird like situationship, sort of kind of romance, but kind of not, because they're kind of mean to each other. Like Kathy, she spits on him, she hits him. Like she's not a nice person. But they have this weird situationship where they love each other and they're in love with each other. And that's what I mean by it's kind of like slightly like a toxic relationship, because it's not a nice one at all. Hindley splits them up because he doesn't like Heathcliff, and that's pretty much that. He is also the one that puts the idea into Catherine's head that if she were to marry Heathcliff, it would be her degrading herself. So in the movie, Mr. Linton proposes to her, and she's in a side room with Nellie, and she's crying. She's saying that she's going to do it, and da 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 da. And she's trying in the movie. She's trying to get Nellie to be like, "Don't do that. You know, you love Heathcliff." Like that's exactly what they're going for. And then Heathcliff happens to be listening, and she says she doesn't know that he's listening, and she tells Nellie that if she were to marry Heathcliff, that would be her degrading herself. My camera died. So the next thing is the Heights. The book Heights is considered haunted, and Mr. Lockwood doesn't understand why Heathcliff lives there, because it seems like something that's more for like a farmer than it is for a gentleman. The Heights in the movie is very much dilapidated, rundown, everything else. It's very creepy, but it's not haunted. There's no ghosts. So there's that. Now, the supernatural elements. There's ghosts in the book, particularly Catherine's ghost, but that is not in the movie at all. I think it would have been cool if it was in the movie, but they don't even get to the second half of the book. Wuthering Heights is a fairly large book, give or take, and Catherine dying is literally like halfway through. Joseph. So, Joseph in the book is like 50, mid 50s, late 50s, to 60s year old man. He is like the groundskeeper, farmhand, stable hand. Like he's a jack of all trades, and he's mean, and he hates everybody. Like he absolutely despises everyone. He doesn't like you. He doesn't like your family. He doesn't like the neighbors. He hates everyone and everything. In the movie, Joseph is young, and he's kind of cheeky. He is the one that kind of made me laugh a little bit when I did laugh in the movie. But he's also the one that will make me never look at a horse the same way again. If you know, you know. Edgar and Isabella. So in the book, Edgar and Isabella are actually siblings. Their parents are Mr. and Mrs. Linton, and instead of Catherine, like in the movie, Catherine just goes and introduces herself. Well, she spies on them and then introduces herself. In the book, it's Heathcliff and Catherine that do that, and they kind of become friends. And yeah, that's kind of how they come about in the book. They're siblings, not how they portray them in the movie. In the movie, Edgar Linton, he moves into Thrushcross Grange as an adult, and Isabella is his ward. So I want to say is late teens to early 20s in the movie, and Edgar is probably the same age as what roughly Catherine is in the movie. The age difference. Speaking of Catherine's age, so in the book, Catherine and Heathcliff are roughly, I want to say, 16 to 19 years old. I believe Catherine actually marries Edgar Linton at the age of 17. And then she gets pregnant, and I believe she dies at like 19 years old ish. So it's all really young. Uh, in the movie, I believe she's in her early 30s ish, late 20s, early 30s ish. I think the what they were trying to do is like she's the old spinster, like the old maid, and she doesn't want to die an old maid. Um, and so she does what she needs to do to put herself in Edgar's sights, to get him to fall for her, to propose to her, to get her seen by her family. So she can help get her family out of the dire situation they're in. Catherine is extremely manipulative, not just in the movie, but she is a bit in the book. It's a very toxic trait that she has. It is a flaw. She has a few of those. All the characters have them. But in the movie, it portrays her manipulation quite a bit. And she does manipulate situations, so she gets the better end of the stick, pretty much. So, the next generation and other characters. So in the movie, it ends with Catherine locking herself up and going on strike and being like, I'm just going to throw the biggest tantrum and be the biggest drama queen because my husband won't let me see my boy toy, pretty much. Um, and so she starves, she doesn't eat, she doesn't do this, da 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 da. And she ends up losing the baby she's pregnant with and then dies of septicemia. Now, in the movie, it's mentioned, I think, by Edgar that she's pregnant with their son. So I don't know if that was a take that the director was going with, like a completely different gender of the child than in the book. Who knows? So in the book, it happens kind of the same way. So Catherine is the queen of all drama queens, and she is throwing a fit. She's taking a stand. She's rebelling. She is on strike because her husband Edgar is not letting Heathcliff over. He's not letting him stay. And she's like, no, why are you doing this? Like, I'm not going to come out. Like, I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to do anything. Like, she's being a child. At this point, she is pregnant. And it continues. And she ends up having a baby girl prematurely, I believe. Um, and then shortly after the baby's born, she ends up dying. And Edgar raises the baby and he chooses to name the baby Kathy, after Catherine. So moving forward, if I'm talking about the baby, I'll say Kathy. If I'm talking about the main female character, I'll speak about Catherine. Now, then other people in the book have kids. So there's Isabella and Heathcliff do get married, and he's an absolute asshole to her. So it's nothing like what they portray in the movie. Um, it's really not. And they end up having a son, and they name him Linton. I believe Linton is really sick. Um, and then Hindley, remember him, Catherine's brother? He ends up marrying a woman named Frances. That's the wife who dies and sends him down crazy town. And he starts gambling and everything else, and then he dies. So they have a son named Hindley. Now, other characters that aren't in the movie, Frances, Hindley's wife and Harriton's mother, and then Mr. and Mrs. Linton, Edgar and Isabella's parents. Um, they're side characters. They're not really main plot characters, but they are in the story, as well as Mr. Lockwood. He's kind of a sort of prominent figure in the book. And obviously, Hindley isn't in the movie either. And he's a big part of why what happens in the book happens. So I don't know why that was removed. In the movie, no one exists. And Nellie. So now we go on to Nellie. Nellie in the book is a servant or a maid or housekeeper, and that is all she is and what she is. And then in the movie, she is like a companion. She doesn't really do any housekeeping that I could see throughout the movie. And she was dressed more fine in more finery than the other maids or servants in the household. And there was a moment in the movie where it says that she actually came from a wealthier family that like lost their money, and now she's Kathy's companion, and she's been Kathy's companion since Kathy was a child, like since they were children. um so the next aspect is the dark and twisted nature and themes. Yes, in the book there's a lot of them, and what I mean by that is they're not nice people. They slightly sadistic, borderline sadistic, I would say. They're extremely mean. There's manipulation. There is greed. There is narcissism. All of these negative personality traits there are. In the movie, they take that to a whole nother level. Whole nother level. Um, like I said previously, I will never look at a horse the same way again, and I will never look at a dog the same way again. If you know, you know. And I'm just gonna throw it out there. Don't take your mom to go see this movie. Like, if you're a book girly and you're like, hey, my mom loves classics, I'm telling you right now, do not take her. Let her go on her own, or even recommend not for her to go, because this isn't a movie I would want my mom to see. Like, no. that and I would not want to sit next to my mom while half of the stuff that's happening in the movie is happening in the movie. So now we're going to go on to Heathcliff. Now, Earnshaw does bring him back in the book, but brings him back, as I said previously, when he goes to Liverpool and like wants to make him a gentleman. He's described as being dark complected, tanned, and there's some other attributes. I think it was mentioned like gypsy or potentially Asian inspired. And when I mean Asian, I mean like maybe Indian influence. It like he's mixed potentially even, um, but it doesn't say that he's not mixed, and it doesn't say that he's just not a Caucasian man who just can tan and maybe just has those physical features and attributes. A lot of book people have been up in arms about this. Coming from someone who is a POC, I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. There are Caucasian people who can tan. There are Caucasian people that I know that are naturally darker than me, and they actually look more Hispanic over me. I am a person of color who is very pale. I'm pigmentally challenged, and I just feel like they gave it to Jacob Elordi because he fit the role, and he acted the hell out of that role, and he earned it. And I think the same thing with Nellie. A lot of people were complaining because she was Asian and in the movie, and they said that the director was being racist because the POC was the servant, but she technically wasn't a servant. She was a companion. And if you looked at the other servants, they were all Caucasian. So I just think that people get a bit too intense about things like that. I feel like the actress who played Nellie, both the little girl and grown up Nellie, acted the hell out of that part, and that is why they got it. Obviously, that's just how it goes. So whether it was blind casting or whether it's just their submission tape or their reading just blew the casting directors out of the water, that's fine. You know, like it's okay. White people can be brown too. Now, the bow chicka wow wow sexy stuff in the book, zero, zilch, nada, nine, nothing, not in there. Smooching, kissing, yes. Pound Town, absolutely not. That is nowhere in the book. I don't even think personal time was hinted at all. In the movie, boom chicka chicka wow wow everywhere. Every like 10 minutes, every 5 minutes. Personal time, it was just it was everywhere. All every all of it. All of it. And that was wild. And there were older people, like old people who women that looked like they drugged their husbands to see this movie. So that was kind of entertaining for me. It really was. But yeah, that was not in it. Then we have the narration. So the movie doesn't have a narrator. There's no overarching voice that just tells the story. It's kind of like in a storyboard format. There's the start, the middle, and the end, and it just flows cohesively. The book, on the other hand, there's multiple narrators. It's kind of multi POV in a way, but it's done in segments. There's Lockwood, there's Nellie, there's Heathcliff. And if you're not paying attention, because this happened to me, I missed where it switched from Lockwood to Nellie, and I was like, the frick is going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? Like, why are you talking about doing that? Like, you you weren't there. Like, you're new to the show. Like, what the heck? And then I went back and reread it, and I was like, oh, there was a switch up. I'm an idiot. So there's that. Overall, I think that the movie did an okay job. Um, was it an exact replica? No. For what it was, did it do well? Yeah. Um, like I said, I give it a 3.5 even, because it did have entertaining parts. I thought the cinematography was beautiful. I thought the set was cool. Like it had like dark Tim Burton vibes, Guillermo del Toro vibes. Like if you think of that weird, like think of like I don't know, like the weird creepiness, kind of like uh, Alice in Wonderland, Frankenstein, Pan's Labyrinth, mixed with kind of like the whimsical side of like I said, Alice in Wonderland, because of Thrushcross Grange. Then you got this movie. It also gives me a little bit of like Sleepy Hollow. I don't know why. Maybe it's the Moors. Maybe that is why. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was okay. The book, I think I gave it a 4 star. I think, if I remember correctly. I can just quickly check. Yeah, I gave it a 4 star. Um, I think I think I was a bit delusional as a child because I really enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it, but not as much as I did when I was a kid, and I think it's because I didn't have a lot of the darker stuff in it. Um, and I'm just not a toxic relationship girly. Like that's just not for me. And that's all that this kind of was. And for the movie, I think that if they put a bit more of the book into it, I would have given it a higher rating. Because if you're really going in and thinking it's going to be like the book, it's definitely not. But it was decent for what it was. Now, if you've read the book, let me know what you thought below. If you've watched the movie, also let me know what you thought below. Did we pick out some of the same differences? Did we have some of the same thoughts and opinions? I want to hear about it. don't forget that you need to get started on Sense and Sensibility, because I believe, at least in Australia, it's coming out in August of this year, maybe September. Also, if you're a Hunger Games fan, don't forget Sunrise on the Reaping also comes out this year. So if you haven't read that, make sure you crack that one open too. I'm telling you right now, Sunrise on the Weeping is going to have you crying for days. Honestly, it will. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around with me. If you've made it this far, please hit a like, consider subscribing to me. It would mean a lot. And if you want to hear more about my thoughts or see what I'm up to, stay tuned for the next video where there'll be a lot more books, a little bit of mischief, and lots of pixie dust. Bye! I have emotional